The message arrives. They see it. You see the little seen notification at 2:14 p.m. and then nothing. Not for an hour. Not for 3. Sometimes not until the next day. They're not ignoring you. They're not upset with you. They're not playing some strategic game about not seeming too available. You know this because you see them posting on Instagram 12 minutes after seeing your message. You see them active on WhatsApp. You know they have their phone in their hand. They just can't reply. Or maybe this is you. You're the one who saw the message at 2:14 p.m. and it's now 6 p.m. and you're still sitting with it. You've opened the conversation 5 times. You've started typing twice. You've closed the app. And you know logically that it should have taken 30 seconds to send a reply. But somehow you're still here 4 hours later and the message is still unanswered. Either way, you're asking the same question. Why? Most people would say it's rudeness or laziness or not caring enough. But here's what's actually going on, and it changes everything about how you see this from both sides of the conversation. Let's get into it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about slow repliers. It isn't about the other person at all. It's about the weight of what they're being asked to produce. Most people treat a message as a message. Slow repliers treat a message as a task. Every incoming text is a small project. Read it, interpret it, decide what to say, decide how to say it, consider how it'll land, consider what it might mean if phrased wrong, then actually write it. For most people, this sequence happens in 2 seconds, and a reply goes out. For slow repliers, every step is a full cognitive event. By the time they've finished the mental processing, they're too drained to type. Research by organizational psychologist Sophie Leroy introduced the concept of attention residue, the idea that even when we switch tasks, part of our brain is still processing the previous task. For slow repliers, unread or partially processed messages don't sit neatly in a mental inbox. They sit as open loops, leaking cognitive energy. The longer a message stays open, the more energy it quietly drains. This isn't a personality flaw. It's a specific cognitive style. And if you're the one waiting, understanding this is the difference between feeling ignored and seeing what's actually happening on the other end. So let's walk through 3 specific moments of this behavior and what each one is actually telling both people involved. The dread of the notification. The phone lights up. Before they've even read the message, something in their body contracts slightly, a small flicker of tension, not because they know what the message says, but because the message itself represents something that now needs to be managed. From your side, this looks like nothing. You sent a simple, "Hey, how's your day going?" From theirs, you just added a task to a list they're already behind on. This is where the time lag begins. Not when they read the message, but when they see the notification and unconsciously decide, not right now. Their brain has cataloged the message as work, and their current bandwidth can't afford work, so the message gets quietly shelved. They'll come back when they feel ready, except ready never quite arrives. What makes this worse is that many slow repliers don't even consciously notice this happening. They just find themselves avoiding the inbox without knowing why. The phone has become, for them, a place of pending obligations rather than a place of connection. Not rudeness, a specific internal economy where every unread message costs something to even look at. The draft graveyard. They finally open the message, they read it, they start typing, and then they stop. Delete. Start again. Delete again. Close the app. This happens more than anyone admits. A 2021 study on digital communication found that chronic slow repliers draft, revise, and abandon responses at rates 3 to 4 times higher than average texters. They're not staring at nothing, they're writing entire replies that never get sent. The reason isn't uncertainty about what to say, it's perfectionism about how it will land. They want the reply to feel natural, not too eager, not too cold, not too short, which might seem dismissive, not too long, which might seem desperate. Every draft gets measured against an invisible standard of how the ideal version of them would have responded, and every draft falls short. From your side, this is the part that stings the most. You imagine them not bothering, not thinking about the conversation. The reality is usually the opposite. They're thinking about it too much. The message isn't being ignored. It's being over-engineered, not indifferent, over-invested. And that over-investment is paralyzing the thing they care about getting right. The 6-hour apology. The reply finally arrives, and before they say anything else, they apologize. "Sorry for the late reply. I was caught up with stuff. OMG. Sorry I saw this earlier and then got distracted. Sorry for disappearing. My day got weird." You didn't ask for an apology. You weren't upset. Maybe you hadn't even noticed the delay. But here it is anyway. a preemptive defense against criticism that was never coming. Psychologist Harriet Lerner's research on chronic apology behavior describes this as a relational hedge, where people apologize to close the emotional gap they perceive has opened, even when the other person didn't feel any gap at all. Slow repliers often know, on some level, that the delay might have caused harm, so they lead with apology to preempt the judgment they're anticipating, whether or not that judgment actually exists. This is also where the behavior gets most self-punishing. By the time they reply, they've already imagined you angry, hurt, offended, and now they have to respond not just to your original message, but to the imaginary version of you that spent 6 hours being disappointed in them. From your side, you didn't even notice. You were living your life, but in their mind, you've been watching the clock tick for hours, and they need to make it right, not neglectful, running a whole private relationship with a version of you that doesn't actually exist. Here's what both of you need to understand. The cost of this pattern isn't the delayed reply. It's that by the time the reply arrives, the emotional energy of the original message has passed. You sent, "Hey, how's your day going?" at 2 p.m. because you wanted to connect at 2 p.m. By the time they reply at 8 p.m., the moment has moved on. The conversation becomes catching up, not connecting. Slow repliers aren't absent from their relationships, but they're never quite in real time with them. They're always a few hours, a few drafts, a few apologies behind the moment where connection actually lives, and the people who love them are always interacting with a slightly delayed version of them, the edited, polished, 6 hours considered version, not the real-time one. If you're the slow replier, the reply doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to exist while the moment is still alive. Send the imperfect version. Send the half-thought. Let them see the real-time you, not the heavily edited you. If you're the person waiting, understand what's actually happening. They're not ignoring you. They're caring so much about the reply that they've frozen. The delay isn't distance. It's care with no exit route. Both of you are trying to protect the same thing. You're just doing it from opposite ends of the same silence. If you made it this far, one of two things is true. Either you're the one who takes 6 hours to reply, or you love someone who does. Either way, you already know. Which scene felt most familiar? The dread, the drafts, or the apology? Tell me in the comments. If this helped you see the behavior a little differently, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. I'll see you in the next one.